Speaking of police officers and individuals who know big cities and the trouble, Chief, when we're talking about the nature of, when something happens to a corporation or a large entity, it's one thing. But these issues, regular, normal, average people are facing every day. That's what America is, the average person. What's been your experience? Certainly Detroit, but we know that reflects every great American city in this country. What's your take on all of this?
Well, I got to tell you, it's so disappointing. So many so-called moderate Democrats are complicit when they let their progressive side of their party dictate the posture of the day. Let me just say this. The New York mayor should be embarrassed. Bank of America executives are warning their staffers right now to be careful. He should be embarrassed. A core responsibility of a governor, a mayor, a police chief is to keep people safe.
Right.
He has failed miserably. And then you got Mayor Lightfoot out in Chicago. What does she say?
Oh.
She's blaming the retailers. Let me tell you, I was in Chicago, I don't know, several months ago, and she says they need better security. I went in their so-called Miracle Mile. There were off-duty cops in every main store. Some of the stores still with windows covered. It's ridiculous. So it's not the retailers. What it is, it's the mayor. She's a failure. The New York mayor's a failure. And thank God there's a new mayor coming in. Hopefully he understands his role as the CEO of the city. That he's got to keep the city safe.
That is it. Liz, and a lot of people know you from the Fox Business Channel, our sister channel. And your, again, involvement in the city of New York is multi-leveled. Certainly with cultural institutions. Isn't there an issue when it comes to, especially with small businesses? The argument is, oh, well, there needs to be security. But, there's fewer people in the city. Tourists are afraid to travel. It's expensive to travel now. Businesses can't afford their own private security at this point, right? I mean, we're in a crunch. Everyone's in a financial, economic crunch. Speak to that a bit, would you? Because people are forgetting the economic cost of this.
It's billions and billions of dollars that are being looted from stores. And here's another thing. In New York right now, in good neighborhoods, if you go into a CVS, everything is behind glass or plastic.
Great point.
So you have to ask someone to come and get your toothpaste. Toothpaste is behind a barrier, so it won't be shoplifted. What does that mean? It means the next thing you do is you go home and you order on Amazon.
Right.
This is a quality of life issue for New York, and our new mayor, Eric Adams, has said rightly, we will not recover economically until our streets are safe and people are happy to come back. People don't have to live in New York now, Tammy. That's the big problem. They can work remotely. A lot of people have moved to the suburbs. Some are coming back. Not all. So, they have to fix this. This is the #1 issue, and it's going to be #1 issue, I think, for voters going forward.
Indeed. Chief, at the same time, we're looking at some things like bail reform and just the rhetoric we hear condemning the police, condemning businesses, condemning the rich, creating these divisions of resentment and then entitlement, resulting in violence against, it could be just your neighbor or the local shop owner, an entrepreneur. These are the people in the inner city, businesses owned by people of color, primarily women in these major American cities. Do you think that kind of rhetoric needs to stop from the Democrats, and is that going to be able to be reversed?
Well, more than important that it needs to stop. Let me just break it down very simply. Those so-called moderate Democrats and I said it earlier about the progressive side that say, bail reform, rogue prosecutors that are allowed to not charge folks, judges that are not keeping people off our streets, and the people that suffer, the real victims, are the folks that live in our vulnerable communities.
Exactly.
But nobody speaks for them.
That's right.
And nobody's speaking up for them. And so I'm here to tell you, look, let's face it. A university professor out of Columbia, there was a violent stabbing that resulted in a fatality.
That's right.
And he said it's sad and shocking. But guess what? He then went on to say, let's talk about police brutality. What does it have to do with the death of someone?
Yeah.
He's the victim.
Yeah.
And see, we got it wrong. And what about the individual who drove that car through a holiday parade.
Yeah.
What about him?
Sir?
And there are other news
Yes.
stations. What did they say? They said, "Oh, the
Right.
car did it."
Yes,
really? The car
with
did
that,
it.
we
got a problem.
we've got to move on through here, but I just want to thank you for your great comments and your perspectives. And Liz, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
joining me
Thanks for
tonight.
having me, Tammy.
Thank you very much. Now,